KSHM Radio brings you a Prescott Christmas Carol, brought to you by Sharlot Home Museum and Aunt Sally's Wrinkle Remover, available in fine, medium, and coarse. And now, a Prescott Christmas Carol. Once upon a time in Prescott, a small town in the central part of Arizona Territory, a man named Scrooge sat busily going over the immense inventory of goods just received from San Francisco. Prescott had become a bustling center of commerce and trade in 1870. At the center of this hustle and bustle were a number of stores, to wit, Sutler's Store, Bashford Burmeister, and Scrooge and Marley, to name a few. Marley and Scrooge had teamed up after Marley parted ways from Irisari at Fort Misery. Marley had died some 4 years before, but Scrooge never bothered to cross out his partner's name. There can be no doubt that Marley is dead. This must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful can come of the story I'm going to relate. An Easterner once wrote in the journal of his travels through Arizona that the best people inhabit Prescott. He clearly never met Ebenezer Scrooge. A tight-fisted hand of Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, covetous old sinner. No warmth could warm him. No wind blew that was more bitter than he. Nobody ever stopped him in the street to say with friendly looks, "My dear Scrooge, how are you? When will you come to see me?" The only person in the store with Scrooge on this cold, bleak Christmas Eve was his clerk, Bob Cratchit. He was an aspiring rancher who came to Arizona enticed by the Homestead Act, who was working for Scrooge in hopes of one day earning enough to build a herd. Scrooge's door was open that he might keep his eye upon his clerk, who sat in a dismal little cell beyond copying letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like one stick of wood. Both looked up from their work at the sound of the bell, which was followed by the sound of feet stamping and the door closing.
A Merry Christmas, Uncle. God bless you.
Humbug.
Christmas a humbug? Uncle, you don't mean that.
I do. Merry Christmas. What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough.
Humbug. If I could work my will on every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips, should be boiled with his own beans and buried with a stake of holly through his heart.
Don't be cross, Uncle.
What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools as this? What's Christmas time but a time for paying bills without money? A time for finding yourself a year older, but not an hour richer.
Uncle!
Nephew, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it, but you don't keep it.
Let me leave it alone then. Much good may it do you. Much good has it ever done you.
I believe that it has done me good and will do me good, and I say God bless it. It's the only time I know of in the long calendar of the year when men and women seem by one consent to open their hearts freely and to think of people as if they were fellow passengers through life and not strangers to be ignored.
Yes, indeed. Let me hear another sound from you, and you'll keep your Christmas by losing your position. As for you, nephew, you're such a powerful speaker, I'm surprised I don't see you in Parliament.
Please don't be so angry, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow.
Dine with you, and you with barely a penny to your name. I'll see you in the extremity first.
Why do you speak like that, Uncle?
Why? Why did you get married?
Because I fell in love.
Because you fell in love. Go on, get out of here. I got work to do.
No, Uncle, you never came to see me before that. Now why give it as a reason for not coming now?
Good afternoon.
I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why cannot we be friends?
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry to find you so resolute, but I will keep my Christmas humor to the last. So a Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Good afternoon.
And a Happy New Year.
Goodbye.
He stopped at the outer door to give the clerk the greetings of the season, who, cold as he was warmer than Scrooge, for he returned them cordially.
Merry Christmas, Bob Cratchit.
And to you, sir.
Ridiculous. Talk of a Merry Christmas when he's but a poor clerk who can only dream of having a ranch and working his own cattle.
As Scrooge mumbled, there again came the sound of the bell. followed directly by stamping feet and door closing. Before Scrooge now stood two gentlemen with their hats off.
Scrooge and Marley's act of the evening. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley has been dead these 4 years. He died 4 years ago this very night.
We have no doubt his generosity is well represented by his surviving partner.
Generosity.
At this festive season of the year, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute, who suffer greatly at the present time. Many thousands are in want of common necessities, sir. Hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts, sir.
Are there no prisons?
Well, plenty of prisons.
And the workhouses, do they still exist?
Well, yes, they do. I wish I could say they did not.
Well, I was afraid from what you said at first that something had occurred to stop them working in their useful course. I'm very glad to hear of it.
Well then, Mr. Scrooge, a few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time because it is at this time when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
Ah, you wish to be anonymous.
I wish to be left alone. Since you asked me what I wish, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishments I mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there.
Many can't go there, and many would rather die.
If they would rather die, they had better do that and decrease the surplus population. Besides, it is not my business. Good day.
Scrooge pushed the gentleman out into the thickening darkness. There stood a group of young carolers.
God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay.
Get out of here, you young whippersnappers, or I'll beat you within an inch of your lives.
Children ran off screaming. And Scrooge closed the door.
All the barrels of flour have been counted, sir.
You'll want all day tomorrow, I suppose.
Well, if it's convenient, sir.
It's not convenient when I pay a day's wages for no work.
It's only once a year.
A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. But I suppose you must have the whole day. Be here all the earlier the next morning.
Cratchit promised that he would. Scrooge walked out with a growl and made his way home to the chambers that had once belonged to his deceased partner, Jacob Marley. They were a gloomy suite of rooms, for nobody lived in it but Scrooge, the other rooms being all let out as offices. The yard was so dark that even Scrooge, who knew its every stone, had to grope with his hands. Now, it is a fact that nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door, except that it was very large. It is also a fact that Scrooge had seen it night and morning during his whole time in that place. Scrooge had not given one thought to Marley since his last mention of his 4 years dead partner that afternoon. Then, how did it happen that Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw not a knocker, but Marley's face? It was not angry or ferocious, but its expression made it look horrible. Then it turned into a knocker again, with a loud
Oh, rough!
Scrooge was startled. The blood ran from his face, but he closed the door and locked it. Once inside, however, he looked back at the door, half expecting to see the back of Marley. He climbed the stairs to his room, thinking about what had happened. He decided that he had merely imagined seeing his old partner and felt quite satisfied with himself. Nevertheless, he checked under the bed and in the closet, then locked the door. He put on his dressing gown and sat down before the fire. Just as he sat down, there was a noise. It sounded like chains being dragged along the floor.
Humbug!
It became louder and louder
Humbug! I wouldn't believe it!
and louder. and straight through the door came a familiar figure. It was the same face, Marley's. The chain he wore was clasped around his middle. It was long and wound around him like a tail. It was made of cash boxes, keys, padlocks, ledgers, deeds, and heavy purses wrought in steel.
How now? What do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Say rather, who I was.
Who were you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Can you sit down?
I can.
Do it.
You don't believe in me,
I don't.
but you can see me.
Yes, but
What makes you doubt your senses?
you may be a bit of undigested beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of underdone potato. There's more of gravy than grave about you, whatever you are. You see this toothpick?
I do.
You're not looking at it.
But I see it notwithstanding.
Well, I have but to swallow this and be, for the rest of my days, persecuted by a legion of hobgoblins, all of my own creation. Humbug, I tell you, humbug!
At this, the spirit raised a frightful cry and shook its chain with a dismal
Dread apparition, why do you trouble me?
Do you believe in me or not?
I do, I must, but why do you come to me?
It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men. If that spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death, and witness what it cannot share, but might have shared on earth and turned to happiness.
You are fettered. Tell me why.
I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link and yard by yard. I girded it on of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it. Would you know the weight and length of the chain you bear yourself? It was full as heavy as long as this 4 Christmas Eves ago. You have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain.
But you were always a good man of business, Jacob.
Business! Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Hear me. My time is nearly gone.
I will, but don't be hard upon me, Jacob, please.
I have come to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate.
You must have been very slow about it, Jacob.
Slow?
It's taken you 4 years to come and see me.
At this, Marley again shrieked down
I am here to warn you that you have yet a chance and a hope of escaping my fate. A chance and a hope of my procuring Ebenezer.
You always were a good friend to me, thank you.
You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
Is that the chance of hope you mentioned, Jacob?
It is.
Then I'd rather not.
Without their visits, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first when the bell tolls 1.
Couldn't I take them all at once and have it over?
Expect the second upon the stroke of 2. Then the third and the last stroke of 3 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more. And look that for your own sake you remember what has passed between us.
The ghosted Marley disappeared. Scrooge went straight to bed without undressing and fell asleep upon the instant. He awoke when the bell sounded a deep, hollow, melancholy one. He sat up and saw a strange figure. It had a branch of fresh green holly in its hand, and from the crown of its head sprung a bright, clear jet of light.
Are you the spirit, sir, whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
He then made bold to inquire,
What business brings you here?
Your welfare.
I am much obliged, but I think a night of unbroken rest would be more helpful.
For your reclamation, then. Take heed, rise and walk with me.
You want me to go out the window with you? But I am mortal and liable to fall.
Bear but a touch of my hand, and you shall be upheld in more than this.
They passed through the window and stood upon an open country road with fields on either hand. The city had entirely vanished.
Good heavens! Scotland! I was bred in this place. I was a boy here.
Your lip is trembling. And what is that upon your cheek?
Nothing. Nothing.
You remember the way?
Remember it. I could walk it blindfolded.
Strange to have forgotten it for so many years. Let us go on.
They walked along the road, Scrooge recognizing every gate, post, and tree. Then he saw some ponies trotting down the road towards them, being ridden by boys. They were laughing and talking as they rode.
I knew them all. Hello?
These are but shadows of the things that have been. They have no consciousness of us.
They approached a large house of brick with a weather vane and a large bell on the roof. A door in the back opened to admit them into a long, bare, melancholy room. There sat a lonely boy, reading in front of a feeble fire.
That's me. All alone as usual on Christmas. Reading. The characters in my books, those were my only friends. I wish, but it's too late now.
What is the matter?
Nothing. But there were some children singing at my door earlier. I should like to have given them something, that's all.
Well, now let's look at another Christmas.
The scene changed only in that Ebenezer was now older, still alone and reading.
There you are, dear brother. I've come to take you home.
Home, Fan?
Yes, home and for good and all. Home forever and ever. Father is so much kinder now, and home's like heaven. He spoke so gently to me one night that I wasn't afraid to ask him once more if you might come home. And he said yes. So here I am, and you're never to come back here.
Always a delicate creature whom a breath might have withered, but she had a large heart.
So she had. You're right, Spirit. You're right.
She died young and had, I think, children.
One child.
Your nephew.
Yes.
The scene faded out. The ghost of Christmas past showed him many scenes of his youth, of the wonderful times that he had, and the voyage to the new world with his sister and her husband. His times as an apprentice, and how he was treated at Christmas in wonderful fashion by his employer.
Do you know this place?
Of course. I was apprenticed here. There's old Mr. Acker.
Old Mr. Acker rubbed his hands, adjusted his waistcoat, and called out in a rich, fat, jovial voice.
Yo, Ebenezer, Dick, it's Christmas Eve. No more work tonight. Clear everything away by advance.
There was Scrooge, now grown into a man. He came quickly in with another young man.
Dick Wilkins, to be sure. We were apprenticed together. We were very close at the time.
Ebenezer and Dick went quickly to work. In a minute, the warehouse was turned into a ballroom. In came Mrs. Acker, the three Miss Ackers, and all the employees and their families. There followed much dancing, eating, and drinking. When the clock struck 11, this domestic ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Acker took their stations, one on either side of the door, shaking hands with every person individually as he or she went out. They wished him or her a Merry Christmas.
A small matter to make these silly folks so full of gratitude.
Small?
The spirit signed to him to listen to two of old Acker's workers, who were pouring out their hearts in praise of him.
He spent but a few dollars of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves this praise?
It isn't that. The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune.
What is the matter?
Nothing particular.
Something, I think.
No. I should just like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk just now. That's all.
Well, my time goes short. Quick!
The scene changed again, and Scrooge saw himself, only now he was older, a young man in the prime of life. He was not alone, but sat by the side of a fair young girl in whose eyes there were tears.
It matters little. To you, very little. Another idol has displaced me.
What idol has displaced you?
A golden one. Our contract is an old one. It was made when we were both poor and content to be so. When it was made, you were another man. I release you.
Have I ever sought release? Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then? I am not changed towards you.
My love is of little importance. You are consumed by greed. You worship merchandise and the money it brings. If you were free today, would you choose a poor girl, you who weigh everything by gain? I thought not. I release you. May you be happy in the life you have chosen.
Spirit, remove me. I cannot bear it. Take me back. Haunt me no longer.
One shadow more.
No, no more, no more. I don't wish to see anything. Show me no more.
But the spirit refused to listen. They were in another place, a room full of comfort. He saw her, now a handsome matron, sitting opposite her daughter. The noise in this room was perfectly tumultuous, for there were more children here. The mother and her children laughed heartily, enjoying themselves very much. But now in came the father, laden with Christmas toys and presents.
Well, I saw an old friend of yours this afternoon.
Who was it?
Yes,
How can I? Who did you see?
it was Mr. Scrooge. I passed his office window and there was a light inside. I could scarcely help seeing him. His partner lies upon the point of death, I hear. And there he sat all alone. Quite alone in the world, I do believe.
Spirit, remove me from this place.
I told you these were shadows of the things that have been, that they are what they are. Do not blame me.
Remove me. I cannot bear it. Take me home. Haunt me no longer.
Scrooge soon found himself once again in his own bed, where he was overcome by an irresistible drowsiness and sank into a heavy sleep. He awoke in the midst of a prodigious snore. The bell struck 2. And there stood before him a jolly giant with a glowing torch.
Who are you?
You have never seen me before?
No, I am sure I have not.
I am the ghost of Christmas present. Come and know me better, man.
Spirit, conduct me where you will. If you have anything to teach me, let me profit by it.
Touch the hem of my robe.
Scrooge did as he was told, and soon found himself standing in the poor part of town. The ghost stood before one particular dwelling, where he sprinkled what seemed to be sparkling dust and blessed all the inhabitants of this place.
Is there a particular type of dust you're sprinkling on these people?
Yes, there is. My own.
Spirit, these people are but workers, and yet you bless their house. Why?
The poor and oppressed are most in need of blessing. Now, come with me.
Then Scrooge found himself inside the clean but cramped living quarters of the Cratchit family.
I wonder what's keeping your father and Tiny Tim. And Sally wasn't this late last Christmas, Jack. Jack, stoke the fire until the potatoes bubbled.
I could smell this stew from the field. It smells wonderful.
I still have the biscuits to make. There's so much to do.
Here's Sally, Mama. Sally, you should see the goose.
Well, bless your heart, Sally. Why are you so late? We have work to finish up at the weekly Arizona minor office. You must be tired after working so late. Sit down by the fire and have a warm.
Papa's coming. And Tiny Tim. Hide, Sally.
The door flew open and was quickly closed.
It's getting colder still out there.
Jack and Sally scooped up Tiny Tim and put him right by the fire as they tended the stew.
But where is our Sally?
Not coming.
Not coming? Not coming on Christmas Day?
Here I am, Father. It was meant to be a joke, but I couldn't bear to upset you.
How is little Tim?
Oh, as good as gold and better. Somehow he gets thoughtful sitting by himself so much and thinks the strangest things. He told me coming home that he hoped people saw him because he was a cripple, and remembered upon Christmas Day who made the lame beggars to walk and blind men to see. He's getting stronger, my dear, I'm sure of it.
Yes, of course he is.
The table's all set, Mama, and I'm hungry after working all day.
Well then, I'll fetch the goose.
Oh, there never was such a goose for anyone's supper.
A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us.
God bless us, everyone!
Scrooge watched them, and especially Tiny Tim, as the family enjoyed their meager feast.
I never knew Cratchit had such a family. Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see a crutch without an owner.
No, oh no, kind Spirit. Say he will be spared.
If these shadows remain unaltered, the future will be a grim place for the Cratchits. What then? If he is going to do it, he had better get on with it and decrease the surplus population.
Oh, Spirit.
A toast to Mr. Scrooge. I give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
Oh, the founder of the feast, indeed! I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon. Mr. Weaver gives his workers 2 days off, but Mr. Scrooge begrudges you 1 day.
My dear, not Christmas Day.
It should be Christmas Day, indeed, on which one drinks the health of such a stingy, hard, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know he is, Robert. And nobody knows him better than you, poor fellow.
My dear, Christmas Day.
I'll drink to his health for your sake, and the day's, not his. Long life to him. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. He'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt.
The family drank the toast with her, although their hearts weren't in it. Scrooge watched Tiny Tim until the Cratchit's house faded from view. He found himself on a bleak and deserted moor.
What place is this?
A place where miners live, who labor in the bowels of the earth. But they know me here. See?
A light shone from the window of a hut. They looked in the window to see people in their finest clothing. They were clustered around a warm fire singing.
Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant.
As the scene faded before him, Scrooge found himself in the home of his nephew Fred, where he and his wife were entertaining a few friends in a bright, gleaming room.
He said that Christmas was humbug as I leave, and he believed it too.
More the shame for him, Fred. I have no patience with him.
Oh, I have. I am sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. And who suffers by his ill whims? Himself, always.
I'm sure he's very rich. At least you always tell me so.
Well, then what of it? His wealth is of no use to him. He doesn't do any good with it. He doesn't make himself comfortable with it. I feel sorry for him. I'm sure he loses pleasanter companions than he can find in his own thoughts, either in his moldy old office or his dusty chambers. I mean to give him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not, for I pity him.
I'm glad for that. After all, he's missing a very nice dinner tonight.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. And if my showing up in good spirits every year only puts him in a mind to leave his poor clerk $50, then that's something. Here's a glass of wine. You wouldn't take it from me, but may have it anyway. I give you Uncle Scrooge.
Well, Uncle Scrooge.
Scrooge's mood had become so light that he would have returned the toast if he could have.
Now, let's play some games.
Oh, yes, let's.
I rather used to like games, and I was good at them too. Can we stay and play a few with them?
But the whole scene passed off in the breath of the last words spoken, and he and the spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw and far they went, and many homes they visited, but always with a happy ending.
My time is almost over. I leave at the stroke of 3.
So soon? Spirit, please forgive me for mentioning, but I see a small foot protruding from the bottom of your robe.
Look then.
From the folds of his robe he brought 2 children, frightful, hideous, and miserable. They clung to the edges of his garment.
Look here at these 2 children, this boy and this girl.
Spirit, are they yours?
They are man's. This boy is ignorance, and this girl is want. Beware them both, But most of all, beware this boy, for upon his brow is written doom, unless the writing is erased.
Have they no resources?
Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?
Then the bell struck 3. Scrooge looked around him for the ghost, but he was gone. As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Marley, that he would be visited by 3 ghosts. Lifting up his eyes, he beheld a solemn phantom, clothed in black, his face hidden, coming like a mist along the ground towards him.
Am I in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come? You are about to show me the shadows of things that have not yet happened, but will in the time before us? Is that so, Spirit?
He gave him no reply. The phantom moved away. Scrooge followed.
Ghost of the future, I fear you more than any specter I have seen. But as I know your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to live to be another man from what I was, I am prepared to bear you company and do so with a thankful heart. Won't you speak with me?
He gave him no reply. The hand was pointed straight before them. Although well used to ghostly company by this time, Scrooge feared the silent shape so much that his legs trembled beneath him.
Lead on, lead on. The night is going by so fast, and time is precious to me now. I know.
The spirit stopped beside 2 businessmen. Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk.
No, I don't know much about it either way. I only know he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I think.
What was the matter with him?
Who knows?
What has he done with his money?
I haven't heard. Left it to his company, perhaps. He hasn't left it to me, that's all I know.
Well, it's likely to be a very cheap funeral, for upon my life, I don't know of anybody to go to it.
Well, I don't mind going, if lunch is provided. But I must be fed.
Spirit, who is it who has died? It cannot be old Jacob Marley, for his death is in the past, and this is the future.
But the spirit was silent and moved on. Then the spirit took him to a part of town he'd never frequented, a place where a certain element of society brought things to sell, things they had scavenged from here and there. Scrooge noticed his own laundress entering the shop with a large bundle. She was followed almost immediately by his housekeeper, carrying a similar load.
So you took some of his things, Mrs. Dilbert? Well, everyone has a right to take care of themselves. He always did.
If he wanted to keep his things after he was dead, why wasn't he natural in his lifetime?
If he had been, he'd have had somebody look after him instead of laying there all alone.
It's the truest word ever spoken.
It's a judgment on him.
Yes, he never gave a thought to anyone else, that's for sure. What did you take?
A silver watch, and the fancy shirt he had made me send for disco. Somebody was fool enough to put it on him to be buried in, but I took it off and put him in homespun.
Well, I got some of his bed sheets and his pillowcases.
Oh, the body was still lying there.
Yes, indeed, and his blankets too. He isn't likely to take cold without them or need them where he's going.
Scrooge listened to this dialogue in horror.
This is the end of it, you see. He frightened everyone away from him when he was alive, but propped up when he was dead.
Spirit, I see. The case of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends that way now.
Scrooge now found himself standing next to a bed, stripped of its sheets and blankets, where a dead man lay, covered only by a single sheet. He lay in a dark, empty house, with not a man, a woman, or a child to say that he was kind to me, and for the memory of one kind word I will be kind to him. The scene changed yet again, and Scrooge was standing before Cratchit's meager dwelling.
I see Bob Cratchit, but where is his family?
The ghost shook his head slowly, but did not speak.
Please, Spirit, you must tell me, where are the Cratchits?
At last, a voice floated up from the depths of the phantom's dark figure.
Smallpox. Because they didn't have enough money to afford Dr. Kendall's smallpox vaccination, Bob Cratchit's entire family was taken from him.
What of Tiny Tim?
Dead.
Dead? How?
Without the smallpox vaccination, the boy fell victim to the wrath of the disease.
Spirit, tell me what man it was we saw lying dead earlier.
The phantom turned and silently led Scrooge to the citizen's cemetery, where he pointed to a tombstone.
Before I look at it, answer me one question. Are all these things that will be, or that might be? If a man changes in his heart, the end may change too. Is that not so?
Still, the ghost only pointed downward toward the grave. Trembling, Scrooge approached the tombstone and read,
Ebenezer Scrooge. No, Spirit. No. I am not the man I was. Why show me this if I am past all hope? Assure me that I may yet change these shadows that you have shown me with a changed life. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year.
Holding up his hands in prayer, Scrooge saw the phantom collapse and become a bedpost. The bedpost was his own. The room was his own.
I'm alive. And I'm here. The shadows of the things that would have been may be dispelled. They will be. I know they will.
He ran around the room, fumbling with the clothes he was trying to put on.
I don't know what to do. I'm as light as a feather. I'm as happy as an angel. I'm as merry as a schoolboy.
Scrooge ran to the door and flung it open. It was a bright day. People were walking by merrily and people were singing. He saw a child pass by.
What's today, child?
Why, Christmas Day, sir.
Good. I haven't missed it. Go to the Pioneer Meat Market. Buy the biggest turkey that he has. Tell them to bring it here. Come back with the man in under 5 minutes and I will give you a $5 gold piece.
A $5 gold piece? Yes, sir.
The boy was off like a shot.
I'll send it to Bob Cratchit. We won't know who sent it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim.
Soon the child was the happy owner of a $5 gold piece, and the turkey had been dispatched to the home of the Cratchits, a gift from an anonymous benefactor. Scrooge, dressed in his finest clothes, strolled through Prescott, cheerfully greeting all he encountered with a boisterous
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas to you!
He had not gone far when, coming on towards him, he saw the gentleman who had come to see him the day before.
My dear sirs, how do you do? I hope you succeeded yesterday. It was very kind of you. Merry Christmas to you both.
Mr. Scrooge?
Yes, that is my name, and I fear it may not be pleasant to you. Allow me to ask your pardon. And will you have the goodness to...
Here's Scrooge spoke so only they could hear.
My goodness, my dear Mr. Scrooge, are you serious?
If you please, and not a penny less. A great many back payments are included in it, I assure you. Will you do me this favor?
My dear sir, I don't know what to say to such an amount.
Don't say anything, please. Will you come and see me tomorrow?
Oh, we will.
Thank you. I am much obliged to you. Thank you 50 times. Bless you.
Scrooge continued his walk to the Ruffner stables on Goodwin Street, where he rented a buggy to drive down Granite Creek to the house of his nephew. He knocked on the door.
Fred!
Why, bless my soul. Who's that?
It's your Uncle Scrooge. I've come to dinner. Will you let me in?
Let him in. It is a wonder he didn't shake his arm off. He was at home in 5 minutes. Wonderful party, wonderful games, wonderful happiness. But he was early at the office the next morning. He wanted to catch Bob Cratchit coming late, and he did. A full 18 minutes after the appointed hour, he heard Cratchit rush in the door and run to his desk.
What do you mean by coming here at this time of day?
I am very sorry, sir. I am behind my time.
You are. Yes, I think you are. Step this way, sir, if you please.
It's only once a year, sir. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday.
I am not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer. And therefore...
Leap from his stool.
Bob Cratchit, I'm going to make you my partner.
What?
A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good man, than I have given you for many a year. We'll discuss your affairs this afternoon over a cup of Christmas eggnog. Put some wood on the fire. It's cold in here. Now, you must excuse me. I must go to the weekly Arizona Minor office and talk with Benjamin Weaver about one of his employees I want to hire.
Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Benjamin Weaver was quite perplexed when Ebenezer Scrooge presented himself with an offer to hire a certain girl named Sally Cratchit, who was one of 4 children that included a crippled boy. But he was a businessman and understood that good helpers are to find at Prescott.
Fresh off the press, Mr. Scrooge, and here you are.
Listen to this. From the Arizona Minor. Christmas dinners. Never before in the history of our little city did the community appear so thoroughly determined to enjoy itself as upon the last Christmas day. At nearly every home there was a Christmas dinner with the time-honored, savory-smelling roast turkey placed invitingly on the family board. At many places there was a Christmas tree laden with gifts for the dear ones, and while the tree was getting plucked, the delighted voices of the children and the delicate way in which the Christmas gifts were presented and received all tended to remind one of days of old lang syne and touch the tenderest feelings in an old bachelor's nature. That night, we dreamed of Christmas dinners of bygone days. May such time-honored customs be always revered in our country. Many Merry Christmas dinners to you all.
The entire town was abuzz when they learned that the notoriously stingy Scrooge had made Bob Cratchit his partner and that he'd hired Sally to work in his store. Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh and little heeded them, for he was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened on this globe for good at which some people did not have their fill of laughter at the outset. It was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well. May that be truly said of us and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed,
God bless us, everyone!
God bless us, everyone!
This production has been brought to you by Charlot's Radio Theater. Charlotte wishes you all a very happy holiday and a healthy and prosperous new year. Good night.